What do you think's holding you back? Just call out a few ideas. What's holding you back from having a great business right now? Yourself. Thank you. Mindset? Absolutely. So what I found is the thing holding most people back from having a great business is a decision. It's a decision to settle. And what I want to do is talk. I've got 20 minutes. There's one rule and there's 4 goals. My first rule is that we have a bit of fun. Is that okay? A bit of fun? Yeah. Awesome. Just for this last part of the morning. My 4 rules are, first one is I want you to determine where you need to focus. Because people who tell me they're too busy are just telling me that they don't know where to focus. It's not that they're too busy, because everyone's got the same amount of time every single day. The second thing that I want to give you today is understanding of where your self-limiting beliefs are, your own personal ones. Because I guarantee you we all have them. It's just a matter of where they lie. The third thing I want to give you today is the yearn to learn. What do I mean by that? The yearn to learn. See, what we've found, and a few of the speakers spoke about this, the internet's moving pretty fast, right? Technology's moving pretty fast, industries are moving fast. The business owner that goes south is the business owner that doesn't see what's coming. And the only way you can see what's coming is by learning. So I think as a business owner, you have an obligation to be out there understanding what's happening in your marketplace. And the last one I want to make sure is that you walk away with some action items that you can actually do. Is everyone cool with that? Anyone not? Just checking. Who'd like to make some massive differences in their business this year? Only half the room. Okay, the other half, they're sort of cool. They're not putting their hand up. When we talk about massive results in business, what do you think the foundation of getting a massive result is? Thank you. Very few people get this, right? Who's in chaos in their business right now? Chaos? There's a few people. What does chaos mean? I wake up every morning, I go, oh my God, I've got to start this whole thing again. 55 emails, 200 voicemails, people screaming at me, they're not getting their stuff on time, I've got no money in the bank. Who's used to that sort of experience? Right, this is running a business, right? Well, it's actually called chaos. And we can live in chaos for a long time, and we're sustainable, we can do it. But I've met people who have been in business for 20 years, and they go, I've got 20 years experience. And the reality is they have 1 year's experience photocopied 20 times. Who knows what I mean? Right? Because they don't change anything, they just do the same thing, expecting a different result. So the fundamental thing that we need to have is clear goals. Now, Timothy talked about it, and he said, you know, the biggest thing I see is when people go south, the first thing that's missing is a business plan. They have no idea what they're building. Here's a question. I'd like you to write this down in your notes, because most people cannot answer this question. It's very fundamental. The question is, what will your business look like when it's finished? What will your business look like when it's finished? And people are looking at me going, what do you mean finished? I just started. I don't expect to retire anytime soon. But I'll tell you, why is it important to know what it looks like when it's finished? See, here's an interesting point, right? Zig Ziglar said it well. He said, you can't hit a target you can't see, and you can't see a target that you don't have. And for most people that are working in their business, the reason they're working in their business is they're not building. They're just going to work every day. And the reason they're going to work every day is they have no idea what they are building. Is there any builders in the room? Any builders? Excellent. Imagine I come to you and I say, build me a house. What's the first thing you ask me to do?
Tell me what you want.
Tell me, I don't know, just start. How many bedrooms do you want? Oh, let's work that out when you get to the first floor. Sounds ridiculous, right? It's actually illegal. You can't go to a builder and say, start building, and then I'll tell you how many bedrooms I want when you get to the first floor. But in business, everybody does it. What's your goal in business? To get a few more clients, to increase profit by 10% next year. Awesome. What's it look like when it's finished? Oh, don't worry about that. I just want to get through the next year. So what I'm getting at is the plan that people have for their business, they're going to end up with a business that looks a bit like this. That's reality, right? They don't have a business plan, and the reason they don't have a business plan is because they actually don't know what they're building. You cannot have a plan if you don't have a goal. It's impossible, right? And most people go, well, I don't want to finish. But your business will finish one day. Might not be next week, it might not be next year, it might not be for 25 years, but it will finish. And when it's finished, it can do one of a few things. What's your options? 80% of businesses will go broke. 80% will go broke, right? Because they have no exit strategy. They just go, you know what, I'm done. I can't do this anymore. Let's just shut it down. They might fire sale. They go, you know what, let's sell the business. And then the business broker looks at you and goes, sell this. You're in the middle of it, and you're going to retire. What are they buying? Well, the assets, right? so we can sell it. But my suggestion is you should know what you're building when you start, right? Because you don't want to end up with a business that looks like this. So what will it look like when it's finished? You can sell it. You can actually have an internal buyer. You can run it under management. You know, a business that works without you, so you can go on that boat cruise that's leaving this morning, right? Any of those things, right? But you have to decide. And not only should you decide, you need to write it down. And if you have a business plan, so let me ask you, the builder, how often does he look at the house plan when he's building a house? Sorry? How often? Every day. About 10, 20 times a day they'll look at the plan, don't they? How often do you look at your business plan? If you have one. Once a quarter, once a year. Well, some people say, I look at it every year and I go, what was I thinking when I wrote this? Right? Well, who wrote this? It's even better, right? But the reality is we have a business plan that's ineffective if we're not looking at it every single day. Because when we look at it every day, we look at it before we actually make a strategic decision. That's the importance of having the business plan. The second phase of chaos to control is time management. Who runs out of time? Only half the room. The rest of them don't want to admit it. Everyone runs out of time. And when I ask them why they run out of time, they've got too many things on the go. My suggestion is this guy, yes, he's a hipster. Does anyone know who that is? It looks current, doesn't it? You go, hang on, that guy's at the back of the room. Right? His name's Wilfredo Pareto. Who knows who Wilfredo Pareto is? He's one of the best time management gurus of all time. So he came up with this concept. He said, 80% of your income comes from 20% of your clients. 80% of your productivity comes from 20% of your week, which is one day. 80% of your week produces 20% of your productivity, and 80% of your clients produce 20% of your profit. So the 80-20 rule applies to everything. But if you don't know where you're going, you can't work out what the 20% is. Is everyone following me with this? So time management is not about managing time. It's about knowing what you need to be doing. And you won't know what you need to be doing unless you've got a nice, compelling business plan. We're still in chaos, right? Because we've got goals and we've got time, and that gives us some focus and some direction and a reality check. Why are numbers important in business? They keep score. Anyone heard the old saying, the numbers don't lie? Right? The numbers don't put their head in the sand, the numbers are the numbers. Right? When I ask someone how's business, they don't say we made 15% profit last month, they say flat out. Because flat out is unmeasurable, right? The numbers don't lie. Right? We need the numbers because they actually tell us how the business is going. Now, who looks at their P&L on a monthly basis? At least the accountants do, right? A few people. Why do so many people glaze over when they look at financials? Anyone have any idea? They don't understand them, or really they don't know. If I showed you my P&L at the bottom and said 50,000 profit, is that good or bad? It depends, right? What it depends on is if I'm BHP, that's really, really bad. Right? But if I'm a solopreneur, that's probably not bad. But the problem is that we have some sort of idea on numbers, but we don't have a budget. Right? So we need to know what we're aiming for to tell whether the numbers are good or bad. Does that make sense? This is targets, back to goals, right? We need to know what our monthly expectation is so that when we look at the numbers, we can tell if we're on track or not. So we can use the budgeting to make sure the reporting is meaningful. I just want to talk about the critical numbers in business. What's the most critical number in a business? Thank you. Profit, bottom line. What does profit mean? Profit means what's left after you spend all the money to cover all your expenses, fixed and variable. Everyone follows, right? And often in business we confuse profit with the wages of the owner. Right? We go, oh, we made 100,000 last year. Great. Did you pay yourself? What do you mean pay myself? I'm a business owner. So how much is your time worth? Oh no, I get paid profit. Try selling that business, right? It doesn't work, right? So profit is after paying your own wage, right? Where does profit come from? It comes from revenue. So the two most important numbers in business are revenue and profit. Now, most people in this room can probably tell me their revenue from last month, yeah? Less than 50% can tell me their profit because we don't monitor profit because it's hard to calculate, right? And we need to know what our margins are. Now, let's go further. Where does profit come from? It comes from customers. What do customers need to do? They need to buy, right? So they need to transact with you, right? And we can count these things. These are all numbers that are measurable in a business. Number of transactions and how much they spend on average per transaction. Is everyone following the calculation? How many customers do I have? How often do they spend with me and how much do they spend? It gives me revenue. Multiplied by my margin gives me profit. Who's glazing over already? Okay. Customers come from where? From Steve. Right? Steve generates leads for you, and then you have to give them to Ashley to do what? To convert them. Well, you can do it yourself. It really doesn't matter. But the point is, we need to measure these things, because if I'm going to use a marketing company, I want them to be accountable. I want to know how much I'm spending and how much I'm getting. If I'm going to do sales, I want to know what my conversion rate is for every single one of my salespeople. Because I want to know who's doing a good job, what are they doing that the other guys aren't doing. Everything's measurable. Just to take the glaze out of your eyes, let's put some numbers in here, right? Let's imagine that we count how many leads came in, and we counted 4,000 leads for our business, and we had a 25% conversion rate. How many customers did we get? 1,000. Excellent. And they transacted with us twice in a year, and they spent $100 on average per transaction. What's the revenue of our company? 1,000 times 2, 2,000 times 100, 200,000. Everyone following so far? It's pretty simple. 25% margin, we're doing pretty well. We end up with a 50K profit. Now, is this complicated to anybody? It's pretty straightforward, right? But we've measured 5 things, the 5 things in purple, and we've got 3 numbers that are results, right? And they're the actual numbers after the equal sign. I'll show you why numbers are so important, because when I start measuring things, what happens? As soon as I start measuring something, what happens to it? It gets our attention, right? Remember we said focus is important. As soon as I start measuring conversion, we focus on it, and what do you think happens to that number? Just by measuring it, it goes up. I'll prove it to you, right? Anyone in retail in this building? Retail? Here's one of my favourite things when we start coaching retail companies. The first thing we tell the team is we're putting mystery shoppers in. We're going to send mystery shoppers into the business just to see how you sell. Guess what happens over the next week? Why does sales increase? We didn't teach them any sales technique. We just told them we're measuring. Numbers will change the way your business works. Just measure them and tell everyone you're measuring them, because it becomes accountability. Everyone following this so far? So we're going to do some numbers. We're going to do some calculations. If I increase my leads by 10%, how many leads do I get instead of 4,000? 4,400. What happens to my profit at this point in time? Does anyone know? Mathematicians in the room? How much does my profit increase by? 10%. Straight mathematics, right? 10% increase in leads, 10% increase in profits. Pretty cool. Now I go and get some training from Ashley for my team, or I start putting mystery shoppers in, either way. My conversion rate goes up by 10%, not from 25 to 35, just 25 to 27.5%. Anyone know what 27.5% of 4,400 is? It is 10%. It's actually more. 10% growth in 2 areas gives us what sort of growth? We would think 20, right? But it is actually 21. 1,210. Where'd the extra 1% come from? Any financial advisors in the room? Who's heard the magic of compound interest? Compound interest, yeah? We know what it is. We don't use it in our own business. Why is compound interest so valuable? Because we get money for nothing, right? Interest on interest. Compounding, right? So we've got 10 extra clients for free. That's what we got, right? We're going to keep going. We're going to say, let's increase number of transactions, get our customers to buy more often. What's the easiest way to do that? Call them, ask them. Say, hey, come back. We'd love to see you again. And they do. Not everybody, but 10% might. We get 10% increase there. How do we increase average dollar sale from $100 to $110? What's the easiest way? You put your price up. There's another easy way. How do McDonald's do it? They do an upsell, right? They sell you a meal deal. I don't want a meal deal. I just want a burger. But if you get the fries and the drink, you get a discount. Okay, I'll take the fries. Great. Do you want an upsize? Now, who does that? It's a teenage kid. It's not a genius salesperson. It's a teenage kid following a process, right? And what they do is they do the upsell. Now, let's imagine we've got 4 10% increases. Have a look what happens to the revenue of this business over, I don't know what period of time, but 4 10% increases, which are pretty small, right? Compounding, we go from 200 to 292,000. Now, we talk about margin increase, and the easiest way to do that is put your price up. That's the easiest way. I want to go up by 10%. Have a look what happens. Our business goes from a $50,000 profit to an $80,000 profit. 5 10% increases, just by measuring numbers and focusing on them. Pretty simple, right? It's not complicated, what I'm showing you here. What we're talking about is a 46% increase in revenue and a 61% increase in profit. Who'd like to see a 61% increase in profit this year? Now we're getting some interest in the room. See how numbers can be fun? Numbers can be fun if you're actually growing them. They're not fun when they're telling you things that you don't understand. It's really simple. These are the numbers you need to know within your business. Numbers give us a reality check. It doesn't matter what they are. What matters is you start measuring them today. Then we move into service. Why is service important? Why is service important?
How a customer feels.
It's about how a customer feels. It's also marketing, isn't it? Customer service is marketing. We talked about social media. We touched on the edges. What's the most significant thing about social media? People are talking to each other all the time and you can be in their face. They're talking about you whether you know it or not. They're doing it through their social channels. And if you've got bad customer service, it used to be you do bad job in customer service, they'll tell 10 people. These days they can tell the whole world. So customer service is marketing. I'll give you a referral fact. This is interesting, right? Who gets a lot of referrals in this room? Excellent. This is what I love about referrals. Referrals convert more than 70%. That means every time someone comes to me and says, hey, Timothy said I should talk to you, I get a 70% or better conversion. Why? Thank you. They've been pre-sold by someone else, not me. Someone else has said, you should speak to David because he's awesome, not me. So I've been sold by someone else, then they just come in and all I have to do is explain which product or service is for them and they convert. Here's an interesting statement. 63% of business, for most people I speak to, 63% of their business comes from word of mouth or referral. Pretty cool, isn't it? Who'd fall into that category? Over half their business comes from word of mouth. Yeah, interesting. Here's the next one that'll throw you. So I asked these people, who in this room has a referral system? A system for referrals? 80% of people said, what do you mean a referral system? Yes, one person in the room has one. Right? How many referral systems could you have? 10 or 20, right? There's no limit to the number you can have, but most people don't even think it's a system. They just think, oh, I do a good job. People will come to me. I don't believe that. I believe you should get work because you do a good job. I expect you to do a good job. That's why I employ you. But to get referrals, you need to be smoother than that. I call it service, and I think it's important because when you do good service, you'll get word of mouth. You'll get retention. You'll get clients staying with you longer, and you can get out of chaos. Because chaos is about always having to fill the bucket because there's so many holes in it. Does everyone follow me on this? Who knows what I mean? Yeah, I need more clients. Why? Because the old clients aren't sticking. How about you plug the holes and you hold the clients and they refer? How do you do that? You learn how to do it because that's how you build a robust business. This is the platform. Then we grow. I don't expect you to grow when you're flat out now. If you're doing 70, 80 hours a week, there's no point doubling the business, is there? Because double 70 or 80 doesn't fit. Right? You get zero sleep. So the only way to really double the business is to get the platform right, and then we can talk about the next stage. We talk about marketing. I think marketing does two things. It generates leads. Number one, what was the other thing I said marketing does? It's about brand. Thank you. Someone remembers. Right? Because who's in a price competitive market right now? There'll be a few people in this room that are in a price competitive market. I will demonstrate that the most commoditized product on the planet is not price competitive. What do you think the most commoditized product? I'll give you an example. Who's seen this stuff before? We all buy milk, don't we? Ooh, spooky. Wow. I didn't realise milk was so profound. There's two kinds of milk, generally speaking, when you walk in the supermarket, isn't there? There's the no-name brand, the Coles brand or the Woolworths brand, and then there's the farmer's own brand. Who buys the farmer's own brand? Just show of hands. A few people. Who buys the no-name brand? About the same number. Interesting. And when people tell me why they buy it, they justify it with passion, with emotion, right? Because they say, oh, no, you've got to buy the farmer's own brand because the farmers are getting ripped off by the supermarkets. Now, reality is, if you peel the label off, the milk in the container is exactly the same, from the same cow. Very commoditized, right? What are you buying when you choose to buy the farmer's brand, which is 50% more? Not just 10% more, 50% more. It's $2 or $3. What are you buying? You're buying emotionally a story. You're saying, I want to support the farmers, therefore I will pay more. Supermarket's laughing. Going, you should pay more because we just get a percentage off the top. So we don't care which one you buy. Actually, we prefer you buy the farmer's own, if that's the story you like. Commoditized product, price difference of 50%. So anyone who thinks they're in a price competitive market, I'd suggest it's not the market that's the problem, it's the story. You don't spend time on your marketing story. All right, so when an accountant looks at your marketing, what do they deem it as? An expense, right? It's definitely an expense. What defines an expense? Yeah, money goes out. And what happens when business is tough? What happens to expenses? You've got to cut them. So if business is tough, we tighten our marketing budget. We don't want to spend so much on marketing, it's expensive. And what happens next? Business keeps going down. Got to get rid of that sales guy. He's pretty useless. Gift of the gab, but really does nothing. Doesn't add any value. We don't like salespeople anyway. So we get rid of him too. Guess what happens? Keeps going down. And we go and see Timothy. You know what happened? It just happened, right? Here's the distinction. The entrepreneur needs to look at sales and marketing as an investment. What's the difference? Return, right? It's really simple. An investment means I expect money to come back. That's it. Right? I expect money to come back. Now, who does this with their marketing right now? 2 people in the room. Who'd like an unlimited marketing budget? A few more people. Excellent. How do we get one of those? We do 2 things. We test, we measure. What are we testing and measuring for? Before you start marketing, you need to know 2 numbers. The first number is this one, acquisition cost. What does that mean? What's acquisition cost mean? How much it's going to cost me to buy the client. Everyone realises we buy clients. Every so often they go smart aleck. He goes, no, I don't buy clients. I network. Who networks for business? It's probably one of your most expensive marketing strategies if you worked out the number of hours and your hourly rate. It's expensive, right? But if you don't know what your acquisition cost is, you can't improve it. How do you calculate acquisition costs? You count all the dollars spent on marketing, all the time spent on marketing and sales, and you divide it by the number of new clients you got. Easy calculation. Who knows that number? Look around the room. It's a bit scary. Not one person knows this number. Do you think this number is important? Oh, 1. Excellent. Thank you. Is it an important number to know? Yes or no? The answer is yes, by the way. Not only do we need to know it, we need to reduce it. We can't reduce it if we don't measure it. The second number we need to know is a thing called lifetime value. What does that mean? How long the client's with you? And more specifically? Thank you. The amount of dollars they spend with you in their lifetime. Is that an interesting number to know? Because when we know how much they spend, we know how much we're willing to pay to get them. Now imagine if I said to you, I'll give you $2 for every dollar you gave me. And I'm not kidding. How much would you give me? Everything? Right. So how should we set our marketing budget? Because most people do this, they go, isn't it 8%? I said, well, if I gave you $2 for every dollar you gave me, you just told me you give me everything. So if your marketing is not measurable and you're not accountable to it, meaning I'm getting $2 for every dollar, you won't put all your money in, you'll put the least amount in. My suggestion is you should measure your marketing, because it's probably one of the best return on investments you'll ever make, almost guaranteed. But most people don't measure it. So they go, oh, the least amount possible, please. How much for a website? Are you kidding? $20,000? Who uses AdWords in this room? AdWords is a license to tap a hole into your bank account and suck every cent out. That's not bad, though. As long as for every cent that comes out, 2 cents comes back, I'm a happy man, right? So it doesn't matter how much goes out. What matters is how much comes back. So we know lifetime value, we can maximise it. Good friend of mine, Bruce Lee, I wish. Interesting comment, though. Knowing is not enough, because who gets this stuff that I've just spoken about? Who says I've heard this before? Who's heard it before? There's got to be a few in the room. I've been talking about this for a little while. My question is, if you've heard it before, why aren't you implementing it? Why aren't you implementing it? And the answer I get from most people is what? Don't have time. I said, you've got the same amount of time as everyone else. Oh, no, I've got too much on. Too much what? Busyness. Right? We call it busyness, right? We're busy. And I'm going, well, while you're busy, you're missing out on $2 for every dollar. You're missing out on putting every cent you've got into marketing and getting double the return back within 3 months. That's what a business owner should be doing. Right? We talk about massive results. We don't talk about incremental results. Massive results. Massive results comes from taking massive action. All right, so marketing gets us out of problems with cash flow. We're growing. What's the next problem we have? Any ideas? All of a sudden, business is coming in the door. It's highly profitable. We've got it all streamlined. We're going really well. What's the next barrier we hit? Scaling, right? We now need people. But before we need people, we need systems. And Timothy said, I'm going to talk about systems, but I'm not. Because there's no rocket science in systems. Systems are required to employ people. Systems are required to employ people. Because if you put the right systems in place, you'll find the right people. You have no systems and you have a prayer. Who knows what I mean? Right? I need help. Right? Who do you need? Anybody. Oh, I've got a brother-in-law that's been out of work for the past few years. Oh, he'll do. It's called the DNA recruitment process, right? Don't use it. It's a bad idea. This is how recruitment should go. I'm just going to turn to this one quickly, right? We go into business. This is you, the business owner in the room. What's the first thing we need to find as a business owner? A victim, right? Anybody with a pulse and a wallet is a customer. Who remembers their first customer? Yeah, it was anybody with a pulse and a wallet, and sometimes they had no wallet. They were just willing to talk to me all day long, and I tried to service them because I wanted to prove how good I was in my business. True? And if I did a good job, they might have paid me, but they didn't pay me, they paid the business. And then the tax man said, thank you very much, I'll take my share, and the rent, and the this, and the that, and we get what's called bugger all. Someone just said no. We get leftover. It's called profit, right? We get leftover if we're lucky. And this is our business. And we get busy. And we get so busy, we get to a point we need to employ. Now, when's the best time to employ? When you're quiet or when you're busy? Who says when you're quiet? What's the problem with employing when you're quiet? Don't have the money. Who says when you're busy? No one. Excellent. But if you did employ when you were busy, what's the problem with that? I'm too busy to train them. The truth is, the time to employ is not when you're quiet or busy. The time to employ is now. Because if the right guy shows up on your front door, you take him. True? So you're in recruitment mode all the time. It's just that we don't think we are. We're too busy. We're too quiet. It's got nothing to do with anything. The right guy comes along, take him. He'll make you money. He's an investment. Here's the problem. Most people wait till they're busy. They do. They wait till they're busy so they can afford the wages. Who's in that boat? When I'm making enough money, then I can afford to pay someone to do some work. So I get Joe on board. Joe, my brother-in-law who's been out of work for 2 years, comes to work on Monday. And here's the question. Joe comes to work and I'm on the road because my number one client just rang me and said, David, if you don't get out here right now, we're going to another supplier. So I'm in the car and I'm going down there because I've got the relationship. No one does it as well as me. If you want a job done properly, you've got to do it yourself. And I'm driving down to my number one customer who's about to I'm going to fix this problem. Joe rings. David, I'm just out front of the office. I left my keys at home. I can't get in. My question is, who do you attend to first, the client or Joe? Who says Joe? Who says the client? Interesting. Here's the problem. When Joe can't get into the office, no one's answering the phones. When no one's answering the phones, my AdWords is draining my bank account and they're all going to my competitor. Who's costing me more money, Joe or the client? Joe. You could. But you expected Joe to be there. You could. You could, right? There's a lot of things you could do, right? But the reality is we don't. What we do is we sit there in fear and we don't actually do anything about it. And we say, you know what, Joe, this ain't working out. I'm better off just being on my own. One man in a van, no stress, no pain. And you know what? You're not that great at what you're doing anyway. The truth of the matter is we gave Joe zero time. We gave Joe zero training. And because of that, our customer said, you send Joe out here, we're leaving. And we said, I'm the best. I'm brilliant at what I do. And we've just painted ourselves into a corner. This makes most people go white. No one even saw that. I'll do it again. Right? You need to stop working with customers. Stop working with customers. Why? Because you spend all your time building your team. And then your team will be better than you, and no one will even know who you are. The day you walk into work and people say, who is that bloke? That's when you've made it. Honestly, that's working on the business, not in the business. Right? It's just simple stuff, right? Definition of insanity, I mentioned before, is doing the same thing and expecting a different result. I would suggest to you something. It's 2018, we're already into the third month. It's scary, right? Don't make 2018 a photocopy of 2017. If you want to do something differently this year, make a commitment to doing it. Because in the end, when we get the right team on board, we get to this, what's called the big game of business, and very few people ever get here. The big game of business is where we multiply or we acquire or we innovate, because we're working on the business every single day. We don't answer the phones, we don't unlock the doors, and we don't see customers. Because we're the strategists of the business. We've got the ideas and we actually have to make them work. Just want to do this one for fun. Let's say we double 5 numbers. What happens? We get 4,000 leads, we double it could be 8,000. We double our conversion from 25 to 50. We now have 4,000 customers. Possible to do over 2018? Then we move from 2 to 4 transactions and we move from $100 to $200. What's the revenue of this business after doubling 4 numbers? Have a guess. Yell out a number. $500,000? How about 3.2 million? That's just maths, that's not me. It's maths. Right? And if we get a 50% margin, we're on 1.6. Now, I'm not suggesting you can do that in 2018, but I am suggesting 10% is very conservative, and I'm suggesting most people don't even measure these numbers, so they don't even know what they are today. My suggestion for 2018 is simple. There's 4 things I'd like you to do. Where are they? The first one is to define what you're building. What will your business look like when it's finished? That's the first thing I'd like you to do as a result of today. In writing, not just in words, in writing. The second thing is to calculate your acquisition cost, because there was only one person in the room that had any idea of how much they're paying to get new clients. Calculate it. The third thing is start working on your pricing story. Speak to someone like Steve. Get your story right and get out of price competition. Because price competition is a killer. You are not the same as your competitor. It's rubbish. It's just that you can't be bothered creating the story because I'm too busy. Right? Create the story. And the last one, and I mentioned referral system, and there was a couple of people in the room that said they have one. But my suggestion is you don't have enough. Because referral systems bring high-value clients that pay premium because they're not buying on price, they're buying on referral. They get the referral system in place. Now, I know I've gone through a lot. Has it been useful? Yes. Excellent. Jim Rohn did a fantastic thing. He said, never wish life were easier, wish you were better. I believe that every person in this room can do better than they think they can. I believe the only person getting in the way is yourself. And I can prove it to you easily. We just need to sit down and go through your numbers, because all I've shown you is a couple of formulas up here. It's not until you speak face-to-face to me or one of my coaches that you start to realise what's holding you back. And sometimes it's just a little tweak, right? It's not big things that we have to change, it's just a little tweak. And I'd suggest for the majority of people, it's they don't have a business plan in writing that they refer to weekly. I bet. Right? Don't have to bet, because I know. And as Timothy said, I'm not going to embarrass anyone because I've seen them. And the ones they do have is the bank's business plan to get money. It's not the executable one. I know, we're running out of time. We're running out of time. So what we're going to do is I'm just going to give you 30 seconds while I get the presenters up to the front of the room for Q&A to do 2 things. What do we call it? A sanity check. If you want to speak to one of the guys from our team about a sanity check on your business, working out where the holes are, the gaps are, tick a box and we'll talk to you. Right? We're going to have 15 seconds, 30 seconds to fill that in, and then we're going to get the 4 presenters to the front of the room for Q&A.